Meeting the Amherst Township Trustees is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lynch?
Here.
Urick?
Yes.
Kish? And Abraham is absent. Okay. I have the minutes from the June 13th, 2023 regular meeting of the Amherst Township Trustees. The meeting was called to order at 7:04 p.m. by Lynch with pledge to the flag. Roll call, Abraham, Lynch, Urick, and Kish were present. Also in attendance were Case Marsh, G. Lynch, L. Ashley, S. D'Ambrosio, and D. Davis. 6-1-23, a motion by Urick, seconded by Abraham. Move to approve the May 23rd, 2023 regular meeting minutes as corrected. All ayes. 6-2-23, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Urick. Move to approve the financial reports and payment of items on the payment listing with reservation. All ayes. Fiscal officer mentioned working on several projects, included finishing the audit for the Ohio Business Management, researching and working on records and retention schedules, and that the 2024 budget prep would be happening this Friday, and worksheets would be distributed electronically to the trustees, hopefully also on Friday. A budget meeting will take place on June 27th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. at the Amherst Township Hall, and if needed, an additional meeting will be held on July 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Amherst Township Hall. Under correspondence, Trustee Urick mentioned the meeting before the Lorain County subdivision. I'm sorry, that's supposed to be Lynch, is it not?
No, David.
Oh, David did correct it. Trustee Urick mentioned the meeting before the Lorain County subdivision review subcommittee for the proposed Sandstone Mills subdivision phase 1 on Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 at 2 p.m. in the Commissioners Meeting Room A, 4th floor, Lorain County Administration Building. Also included Four Seasons at Sandstone. Trustee Lynch mentioned packets contained a May 18th fraud risk reporting and responsibilities advisory from the auditor of the state. He also provided a copy of the ODOT SALT contract award information. Under reports, ambulance service. Life Care is seeking a new contract with the Sandstone Joint Ambulance District. The district is composed of the city of Amherst, the village of South Amherst, and Amherst Township. The meeting is scheduled on June 15th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Amherst Fire Department. Under zoning, Sam reported 59 permits year to date with 24 new home constructions. 3 new homes in June. Also a complaint for 8935 Oberlin Road being overgrown, and it is really bad. All paperwork is ready to be put in for the mowing and place an assessment on the home. Trustee Lynch mentioned a zoning board of appeals meeting on June 15th, 2023 at 6 p.m. regarding a pole barn at 44775 Telegraph Road. 6-3-23, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Urick, moved that the property at 8935 Oberlin Road constitutes a nuisance as determined by the Amherst Township Board of Trustees per ORC 505.87. Removal of debris and vegetation will begin on or after 6/20/23. All expenses incurred will be assessed to the property owner. All ayes. At 7:30 p.m., Trustee Lynch noted we would recess the regular meeting so that we could move into the bid opening. Before starting, Trustee Lynch called for any other bids for the bid opening, and with none, closed the bidding. Trustee Lynch moved to return to the regular meeting from the bid opening at 7:40 p.m. Road, parks, and cemetery. Full-time mowing, although the lack of rain has helped with that. Looking at clearing some trees across the way in the soccer fields. Cemeteries look good for the holiday. Asphalt leveling of Taylor, Tenney, and Broadway will be done by Griffith Paving or in-house before July 1st, 2023. Chip and seal program beginning 1st of July. New mower will be delivered in the next couple of weeks. Repairing some catch basins, ditch cleaning, regular maintenance. Administrator Ashley was looking into the cemetery grant again this year. That grant opens July 1st. Part-time help Saladin has not returned to work since his break earlier this year. Conversations have been had with several individuals. 6-4-23, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Urick, moved to approve Amherst Township Oberlin Road Soccer Field lease agreement with the Amherst Junior Comets. All ayes. 6/5/23, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham, moved to accept $2,050.72 monetary donation from Amherst Township Park Improvements for disbanded 501c3 Citizens for Economic Growth. All ayes. Under Senior Services, Township Administrator Ashley reported receiving complaints in the park. She has had conversations with our community sheriff. They will increase patrols in the area. There was a scam going around that there was a huge craft show being held at the Township Park. This is not true. It was a scam. It also has been reported to the community sheriff. The insurance consultant through our OTARMA was in and made some recommendations that we are working on. Recommended the fire prevention agreement be revised. Under complaints, they are being handled by the designated individual. Under old business, Trustee Urick noted that the mobile homes parks are considered manufactured homes and they both have service with legacy waste. The manager at Westwoods noted that their fees for garbage is included in their lot rent. He has not been able to get in contact with Amherst Trails. He did contact Attorney Moore, who noted participation of the parks will be dependent on existing contract terms with the park ownership, both between the residents and the park and the current solid waste provider and the park. It would be up to the park owner to decide whether to forego private contracting and opt into publicly awarded contract. Under new business, Trustee Lynch noted that packets contain an update regarding the quiet zone that was supposed to be effective 5/3/23. Mayor Costello sent a letter to Norfolk Southern noting all regulatory requirements have been met, yet we are still hearing horns. Administrator Ashley has brought to the trustees' attention the need for an administrative assistant to be hired to help out with several areas with the township. 6/6/23, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham, moved to authorize township administrator to recruit and hire an administrative assistant. All ayes. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, June 27th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the Amherst Township Hall. A work session will be held regarding the 2024 budget on June 27th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. 6/7/23, a motion by Urick, seconded by Abraham, to adjourn at 8:29 p.m. All ayes.
Okay, are there any changes or corrections to the June 13th meeting minutes?
I have none.
I'll make a motion to approve as read.
I will second.
Lynch?
Yes.
Urick?
Yes.
Okay, you also have
Okay, caught up.
you have the May 2023 credit card account transaction detail. Pretty self-explanatory.
Wants to handle that now, Chris, since you've got the receipts for every expenditure that's in there.
Yep.
You know, who all has a credit card? There's 4 credit cards out. What the credit account limit is $7,500. So I'll go ahead and make the motion that the credit card account transaction detail has been reviewed per policy, and the card statement is accepted as presented, subject to investigation.
I will second.
Lynch?
Yes.
Urick?
Yes.
Then you also have your financial reports in front of you.
What was the number on that?
I'm sorry,
motion?
that was 611.
611. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The financial,
What was the last one?
610 was the minutes, 611 was the credit card, because we had
6/8 would have been the adjourn at the meeting work session on the budget, right?
8
Last
would have been to
adjourn, so the first one for
No.
this meeting would have been
No.
6/9, right?
No. You had 6/8 was the meeting, the start of the meeting for the budget, and 6/8 was the adjourn. Yeah. Neil said I didn't need to call roll call because I saw who was there. So, but 6, to start the meeting.
Let's call the meeting in order. Do a resolution. Approve minutes is the first.
Okay.
Okay, so we should be 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. Should have been 6/11 right now, correct?
for the credit card review?
Yes,
10.
should be 611. 610.
610. 611.
Okay, you want to cover the rest of
Sure.
the financials there, Chris?
Your payment listing is pretty much boilerplate. There is 2 payrolls in there because the first payroll was on the 13th, which was posted on the 14th after the meeting. Then
The Wellington implement, that's the mower.
that's the mower. And then our revenue to date is $882,953.60. And our expenditures are $532,419.81.
I'm going to make a motion to approve, and there was no expenditure there of the ARPA funds, but I'll make a motion then to approve the financial reports and the payments of the items on the payment listing.
What's that $50 out of ARPA?
That is probably Iconium.
Including $50, we'd have to pay ARPA funds, right?
Which include ARPA funds.
It wasn't on this, that would have been on the last one. Where are you seeing $50, David?
Expenditures,
On your payment listing?
ARPA funds, 2273. Expenditures are $50.
Well, we can include it even if it was in the last one, Chris.
Yeah, that's every month.
Yeah, I'll
Once
just
a
go
month.
ahead and include it, to cover it so we can move on. So that I'm making a motion to approve the financial reports and payments of the items and the payment listing. Financial reports actually include ARPA funds, not necessarily the payment listing. The expenditures as specified in the documents provided by the fiscal officer.
Second.
Lynch?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else there, Chris?
I have nothing else right now. Not till correspondence.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance. If anyone has anything to bring before the board, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll move on. Correspondence, Chris?
I have the correspondence from Ron Duncan that we had discussed earlier regarding unspent balance of TIF, but it doesn't explain what it is, so I will get you the documentation that you need to be able to question that with him.
Okay.
But I wanted to point out that it was $9,460.69.
Right, and if we can scan that this evening, I'll
I
have
will-
all the
I will
information to
do
go
that.
over it.
I also wanted to, I'm not sure if anybody had brought this up. I'm sure you all got the same letter that I did for the certificate of environmental compatibility and public need with amendment for Beaver-Wellington 138 kV transmission line project.
Yeah, that was discussed at a previous
I just got it
meeting.
on June 14th, so.
Okay, oh. Well, you must have received it late. I know I had that before and brought it up, but that's okay.
Yep.
We know what it
mine
is,
was
there's
dated
nothing
June
we can
14th,
do
right.
on that. We know where it's coming through our township as far as the transmission line.
And then I wanted to let you know, we got our national opioid settlement check, our first check for $594.66.
Okay, do you have a separate fund to keep that in?
We'll probably have to do that.
Yeah, because we want to make sure those expenditures are going for the
That's why I
target
still have the
amount.
check and it's not in.
I would suggest, just like we had with CARES and ARPA, it be a completely separate fund,
Okay,
okay? Yeah, they didn't give the timing that I recall of when it has to be spent, but we want to make sure it's spent appropriately, whether it's the education, the prevention, the treatment. Okay? Anything else there, Chris?
That's all I have.
Thank you. And I assume you're going to make note of that, particularly with the opioid settlement there, too. In minutes.
Yep, it'll be under correspondence.
Okay, David, any correspondence?
I received an email forwarded from the Township Administrator from Linda, and it was a complaint on darkness on Old Middle Ridge Road, in the vicinity of the intersection with Dewey Road.
Yep.
And the person there was requesting street lighting. Did reach out to the person and contacted them, and they are concerned about darkness and strange behavior in the area. I did advise the person that our policy has been to light intersections. We don't have the wherewithal, the funding to do general street lighting. But I told the individual that I would bring it up before the board tonight. I also invited the individual to come down to the
Okay.
meeting. However, they didn't know if they could make it tonight, but I did invite them down. And the question is, when they redid Middle Ridge Road, when they built the overpass and they cut off the old Middle Ridge Road, there was a light at the old intersection, which would be where the old Middle Ridge and Dewey Road is. And that light was moved from that intersection up to the new Middle Ridge Road. There is technically an intersection right there, Old Middle Ridge Road and Dewey Road. It's not right next to the new intersection. There is somewhat of a space. Well, my thinking would be, since it is an intersection, we would be within our rights to have a light put at the intersection. I advised the party that only do so much, couldn't do anything at all, but I have to bring it up before the board, see what the board's thoughts would be on that. But my thoughts, my recommendation would be to have a street light installed there, because it is an intersection. Two houses on that, it's a stub street, but it is there.
And the reason we put lighting at intersections is, David, can you explain that?
It's a safety, for traffic safety.
For the traffic, but this question isn't on traffic, this question is on security, correct?
That was her request, but it is an intersection, and I wouldn't have a problem putting a light there.
But a dead end with one resident, because there's also the business for the stone there, but with one resident, I mean, I guess there's a potential there. I don't know that I'm quick to put it in without knowing what this is going to cost us, because it also then, you gotta look at what our other residents do. I had a resident on Oberlin Road in the past year ask for lighting, and the same thing concerned, not so much with safety of people coming in, but the safety force is finding her location, particularly since she's getting up in years and now on her own, since her spouse had passed away. And I explained what my cost is for security lighting that I pay monthly, just under $14 a month, to Ohio Edison. They take care of any repairs. I just call them, whether it's a light or photo detector, but I pay for it. I don't ask you to pay for my security lighting. So I guess that's a fundamental question if we're going to start adding these things in there. And I know when we put in the lighting plan at Hampshire Farms, we pay for every one of those fixtures. So every year. So the question is, I guess it really comes down to who pays it. And I did include that request in your packets because I recorded it as a complaint so that it doesn't get forgotten. And, you know, this individual actually isn't even the property owner. This person is actually renting that particular property. So, you know, I guess it's really a question, are we going to start putting in lighting at the request for security? Or are we putting in only for reducing or improving safety for motor vehicle accidents? That's a question.
What I look at is that we have a policy to light intersections, and that's a safety issue. And it does help, and I think the older you get, you appreciate it more, to be going down a street, and if you want to turn, to be able to see where the street is, have a good view of the street. So
Well,
it does
before we
help
make
to
it-
have a street light at an intersection, and that's been our policy. In the past, we've gotten, and we will continue to get requests for a street light here, or a street light there, or a light here, a light there. But they're not tied to a traffic, really, they're not tied to a traffic issue.
When was the last time we put one in at the township expense?
Trying to think, the last lights I think that we had put in that I can remember doing were down in Hidden Valley, but
When was
we
that?
were,
How many years ago?
oh geez, probably 20 years ago, Neil.
More than
But-
that? Have you put one in since I've been a trustee that we didn't have a developer put in at the time of the development?
I'm not sure. I can't rightly recall what as you can.
Yeah, well, the
I
one I
can't.
remember, the biggest concern was the one in Hidden Valley where somebody hit the light pole,
Well, that
skipped
was a
out, and
replacement.
we got the bill for
replacement.
replacing it, which was a couple $1,000. So it's just a question, David, how much will it cost us to put a light there?
Without having an updated estimate, I couldn't
Well, why
tell
don't
you, but what it
before we make a
was,
decision, why don't we get that? Because again, we've got to determine, there's no traffic going through there except for the people that live there. And these people, and granted, I understand their concern, we can help them if we know what the cost is, but right now, it's not even the property owner, it's the person that's renting the property, bringing it up, and they have a legitimate concern. It's a matter of who puts the lighting up, controls the lighting, and pays for the lighting. I can tell you, I pay for mine, my neighbors pay for theirs. This person on Oberlin Road, I told them what we do, and they ended up having their own in, and they pay for it. And, if the reason isn't for motor vehicle safety, but it's for security, why are we paying for our security, and now I got to pay for somebody else's on lighting? All right? My last bill was $13.88. That's why I say it's just under $14 a month that I pay. But I pay it. I mean, if that's the case, I can tell you, I'm going to turn around and say, David, I want one by me. I'm on a steep curve. You know where I live. Cars come across our yard all the time. So why don't you have a light by me? And just, presenting this for argument, but find out what the cost is, because that'll give us better information, if we're
Yeah,
talking next to
yeah.
nothing.
But I understand your concerns there, Neil, and I think you've brought those up in the past. And
Well,
if I
justify,
didn't
we just
feel
had
there
this
was a
resident on Oberlin Road pay
justification
for
there,
theirs.
because there's an intersection, and that's been our policy, to light the intersection. And that's the only reason I bring it up now.
Doesn't our
Had
policy
it
say
been-
intersections and steep curves?
I'm not sure if it says
We'll have to
steep
look
curves.
at it.
But I know that our policy has been to intersections.
All right, I may be asking for a light in front of my home and want you to pay for it. Would that be a conflict of interest?
Well,
But I appreciate it, Dave. Just let's get the cost so we know
But
what
yeah,
it's going to cost.
there's two items here. One, I'm talking about lighting an intersection. Okay, it may or may not solve this individual's problem, but if you authorize installation of a light for the intersection, then it's going to light the intersection. Anything beyond that, that person would have to assume the responsibility for, like as you said, have a security light put up. Maybe a spillover benefit would help the individual's situation. maybe it wouldn't. But if it doesn't, then they may have to go out on their own and have a light put up.
But the
I-
light would end up being on Dewey Road, correct?
Thereabouts, yeah,
It'd be on the west side of Dewey Road.
perhaps.
Is that where the
I have to
resident
see where the
expects the
poles
light?
are, Neil. You have to see where the poles are.
You may have to install a pole. That's why you gotta find out what the cost is. There'll be the installation cost, the ongoing rental cost that the township has to pay for lighting. I'm just pointing out, this isn't as simple as, you know, we don't have these deep pockets. We just got done with the 2024 budget hearing, and then we've gotta make sure we stay consistent if we're going to do it here.
Well,
And I know it's a stretch to
that's
say, well,
what
there's
I'm
an
saying.
intersection.
I agree with you there. That's why I'm saying we gotta be consistent, and this is an intersection, and it's not lit. If you go to the other end of the road, other end of the old Middle Ridge Road on the other side of the tracks, you've got a couple lights there. You've got a light,
Those were put
on
in for
Eddystone.
when Eddystone was
Eddystone,
brought through. So who paid for
and-
that? Who paid for the
the one on
installation?
Eddystone, and then there's a
Who
light.
paid for that installation?
I presume that,
The developer
the
did when the
developer
road
on
came
Eddystone, I
through.
don't recall one there, and,
All right, you
I'm
see the
not sure
difference?
about the light at the, Old Middle Ridge, New Middle Ridge, Eddystone. There's a armature light there.
All right, well, you're gonna get the
Overhang
cost
light.
estimate, a detailed cost estimate of what it takes to put a light
Yeah.
in there, right?
Yeah,
And the location layout of where that light will be, and they'll show you the full, what the dispersion is for the area that it's going to cover, and they'll tell you how many lumens at what level. Let's make sure we know what this is, we know what the cost is, and if the board decides to go forward, you better make sure that that's really will resolve what the resident wants, or are they looking for something that's out front on Old Middle Ridge to light their property where the quote unsavory characters are coming? Okay, and is it more, and they do have security cameras there, by the way, you're aware of that? Oh, you haven't driven over to look at it then, have you? You talk with the
I
resident.
know where it's at.
Drive over there. You'll see a welcoming sign. I'm sure Kevin's seen it when he's over there. Tells you to smile for the camera. So it's, I just want to make sure what we're doing, that we stay consistent. So if we have
Well,
those
yeah.
cost numbers, we can make an informed decision.
This isn't something that, will get out of hand.
I'm going to check that standard, and if it's steep curves, and you agree to this one, I'm going to ask for one. That'll save me about $14 a month. Okay? I'm sure my neighbors will want to do the same thing. But okay, I appreciate it, David. I do have that, I'm going to leave that open on the complaints so you get the other information, and we can get resolution, get back to the resident. Anything I have in here as far as correspondence is going to deal with the agenda item, so we'll move on to that. Unfortunately, Denny was unable to make it this evening, so I don't know what happened at the ambulance board meeting last week. I do know that Life Care is looking at a contract to offset some of their cost increases. I don't know, Chris, if you've got any information or if you want to withhold until Denny's back available.
They didn't give you the dollar amount?
Oh, that, Chris.
If you're
Sorry.
aware of what it is, because I was hoping Denny was here and he wasn't available at the budget hearing. I know that there was a medical issue that he couldn't be here tonight.
Okay.
So, you know, if not, we'll just have to wait, but it'd be nice if it's a large amount that we can at least include it in the budget.
For the whole district, I believe it's $183,000.
Has that been agreed to, or that's the proposal?
That's the proposal. That's what they proposed.
I assume we'd be 30% of that.
I don't know how they have it
Based
broken
on
down.
population, the last time we had a contract, which goes back to when North Central was our provider, is we broke it down strictly apportioned by population. And, you know, it may be a little bit different now, but it was 30% Amherst Township, 10% the village of South Amherst, and then the balance is 60% to the city of Amherst. You know, the demographics may be a little bit different, but it's probably still pretty close to
Right,
that.
pretty close.
So you said it was, what was the number again?
183.
Sounds like $10 capita. Thereabouts.
He's doing the math.
Maybe a little less.
Yeah, well, he's assuming 12,000 Amherst, 6,000 us, 1,000 over at South Amherst, probably a little higher than that, but it won't be more than that amount per capita. But that's a good benchmark, David. I'll let you get that in, Chris. They didn't give as far as, again, did the district approve this, do you know?
No, I don't think the contract up, I believe is at the end of the year is when the contract is up.
Okay, well, that was,
Current contract.
because I've got what's the contract cost and effective when? And that was going to be more for Denny to inform us.
Is that
Our
180?
rep.
Is that what you said, 180?
183,000.
But just with that, Chris, based on the adjustments that we did, just roughly 30% of that you would want to include in 2024 also. That's going to change things, but
Under,
so 100 for the ambulance and EMS, that's the fund it would come out of.
and what was the additional?
Well, 30%, so that's going to be, what, about 54,000?
Additional to what we're already paying?
Well, what we pay today is the first responder to Amherst Fire Department. This would be contractual to Life Care Ambulance, assuming they're still the provider, regardless of the number of runs, I assume. That's just a contract for the provision of service. So very similar to what we previously had with North Central. So it's 54,900, so my 55,000 was a reasonable estimate. I'm not saying that's the way it'll go, but, since we've got to turn that budget in, we've got to account for that. I mean, that's a big whack on what we're receiving in that fund. What they do right now is, and that's why we have in our fire service agreement that the fire department provides first responder service, motor vehicle accidents and whatnot, because many times they're there before Life Care's there. And they become the first responder, might give emergency first aid. They've got to aid, obviously, to get the people out of those motor vehicle accidents or even help and carry people prior to, and then Life Care will take over from there and do the transport. So they separate that so we can pay out of our EMS fund for those services separate from the fire fund. But now that if this contract comes in, it's going to pretty much chew up that EMS fund just for these contractual service, which means then we only can pull it out of the fire fund, which is going to deplete it even more. Okay. So thanks, Chris. I'm glad you had that, because again, we've got to get this budget in for this next month. You see, we're still choking. From 0 to 55,000.
Yeah, I think our city's doing the same thing, so.
Yeah, I'm sure that the district's going to start looking at possibly another bid, which they should be doing every 3 years, I believe, anyway. Okay. Well, I'm going to move on then, Chris. And our zoning inspector, Sam D'Ambrosia, did let me know he wouldn't be here this evening. I'm not sure why, but there are a couple of items to be aware of. There was a rezoning request for approximately 45 acres, just under 45 acres, that fronts Oberlin Road, just south of State Route 113. This group, and it was submitted by a David Kohler out of Hudson, and they had given an informal presentation at the last zoning commission meeting, and they're requesting a rezoning from RAG to R1. This is dated June 20th, so the zoning commission at their July meeting, let's see what that date is going to be.
But did he do a report?
I don't have a report here, and there was none in my box. So it's, did they move that meeting to the 5th,
Thursday.
Thursday the 6th? That's what I'm looking for, so, yep, there it is. So on Thursday, July 6th, the zoning commission will set the public hearing date for this zoning amendment request, which I'm going to assume would be on Tuesday, August 1st. And probably for you, David, because I'm going to ask you to actually help do the portion for the trustees' public hearing. This is giving you plenty of notice with the expectation that the trustees' meeting would be in September, probably at the second meeting, which would be September 26th. And that means prior to that, getting the public notice to the Chronicle, and then preparing the information for the public hearing, and then also the resolution.
The September meeting, or you're talking,
Well,
the zoning commission's going to have...
They will be in August, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, just think about the timing here, so.
And they'll send it to us, their results, after their meeting.
Mhm.
And then,
You're gonna come up with a different date than I just gave you think?
depends on when they give us the, notice.
Okay, David, the key is, whatever date it is, are you going to
It'll
have
probably
prepared
be
the
in
public notice,
September.
get prepared for the public hearing, and have the resolution for the trustees' decision? Don't wait till the last minute. I'm giving you plenty of warning, whether it's in September or if it gets delayed to October, lucky you, you got more time. But don't count on it. Please get prepared.
Okay, I
You know,
understand
I'm
what you're
tired of
saying.
having to run up and run interference and then at the last minute having to put it together. So I'm letting you know, this is coming down the pike, be prepared.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a request if Sam's not going to be here to supply all that information
Yeah,
so that I have it for minutes.
I got you. And yeah, Chris, and I'll let them know, and if you see them, you can also. Again, I'm not sure what came up. There is a second item here. It'll be a site plan review. You don't have to worry about when this is, David, because you don't have to prepare anything. This is for Butchko Electric. They're looking at an 80 by 150 storage facility to put in place off of Dewey Road for their vehicles. The back of their property butts the residents on Stone Valley. I'm sure that for the residents, the biggest concern they're going to have is there's a good amount of wooded area that's going to be taken down there. The plans currently do show, though, where the woods would expose, where it'd be open now and people can see it, they are proposing mounding and landscaping on top of that mound. As much of the woods as they can, they do show along that area of Stone Valley remaining there. But because of the location of their property and the building, it is going to take down the woods that people are used to seeing in their backyards there. There's also, Kevin, more for you, they do show an open cut on Dewey Road for a water line. I don't know if you're aware of that. I know in the past we had this Amherst that asked for some open cuts, and a previous road superintendent I know was fighting that. We finally agreed to let it go. He wanted it bored because obviously you end up with the road settling in time, and you got that little hump that you got to keep patching and filling for a while. but it does show on the plans an open cut. And I don't know that, unless somebody's at this meeting, I don't know, I assume this is going to be at the next zoning commission meeting that this is brought up. I didn't see the actual application. All that was provided to me was a set of plans that was prepared by Bramhall Engineering for the layout and the stormwater management calculations. Okay, so I don't know the timing of when this came in, but that would be the impact on you on roads. And then there'd be another entrance right there. There'd be the same entrance, but they're talking about a gravel drive, taking it back to the back, and then putting in a detention basin back on their property where some of the woods are removed. And it's I think it was about a 60-foot, almost 300-foot width, so a real oblong type stormwater detention basin. That'd be back there.
Can we fight this?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be,
I mean, it doesn't matter, even if they put LSM, it's gonna settle. Always.
that would be the thing then, the request, that it be, bored under versus open cut. But I just saw in the plans, the proposal was open cut.
Well, I'll go over it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know the people there. Again, since I didn't receive the actual application, I don't even know who submitted it, but I know it's Bramhall Engineering that did the design work for them. Okay,
I'll
if
look
you have a
into it.
contact at Butchko, you may want to talk with them directly.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
I've got some contact information from Bramhall that I assume is still good, but it's, again, this document doesn't give any contact information. Okay.
2-year-old road there,
Yeah, I know. Well, and we resurfaced it in 2 sections. This would have been the one we did first.
Right.
But I'm just pointing it out because you don't normally get to these site plan reviews, and I look through it, that's the thing that would impact you most. They've got a water line, they don't show any sanitation back there. They do show trench drains. I didn't get into the detail to see how they're capturing that, so I don't know if this is intended for servicing and washing vehicles, no personal amenities in terms of restrooms. But you would think you'd have a wash basin at the bare minimum, if you're servicing trucks. I wouldn't work in any garage without at least a sink to use.
Yeah.
But obviously, they have the facilities up at the main building, too. It's just, the inconvenience of the back and forth.
Sure.
Okay, and that may come up at the zoning commission meeting. Okay, and our architect will review through this. Okay, fire prevention, Chris Nyhart.
So talking about your Butchko drawings, I looked at the drawings. They're putting a private fire line with a hydrant all the way to the back. So that requires, they can bore or cut the street however they do it. The city of Amherst will put the tap on. They're required from the tap all the way back to the hydrant. So along those lines, the person that installs that has to install it per the NFPA standard, installed by a licensed contractor that holds an underground fire main license, inspected by a person that has a license to do the inspection, which would be us. And there's probably 4 to 6 hours of inspection. There's a underground, before they cover it up, thrust blocking, hydro testing, and flushing. So 4 to 6 hours worth of inspection time that it's going to take to approve this underground fire main, because it's a private line that they're installing. So I don't know what you guys, what your thought is about, are we going to add a fee into inspection time spent toward that?
Yeah, it may not get for this particular project. I know that our township administrator already inquired on that. I don't think it'll get through fast enough. Linda did send email today in comparing Columbia, Eaton, and Carlisle Township and what they do. We did get a determination that I've shared with the trustees at a previous meeting from the prosecutor's office. So the question is, how do we handle it where, they're variable? So a person that's bringing in a project that doesn't require this inspection or as much inspection isn't, we're not paying the high amount. So we keep it simple, set one amount where some it costs you more, like right now it's costing us. There's less revenue coming in for the fee than what we're paying out. Not just you, but also the architect that has to review this. Or do we have a variable amount where it's, here's the standard fee plus, but how do you account for that plus? Do you get an estimate prior to that? We know yours generally is going to be that 1 to 4 hours. The architects, though, can be highly more variable, and obviously at a much higher rate for those professional services. So that's what we're looking at. How do we do this and keep it simple, realizing there's only part-timers in here, even if people need to contact them? I know there was discussion of an option of escrow. Well, I don't think we want to get into holding escrow accounts either. That adds more complexity, especially when you have multiple projects at once. So I don't know on this one, Chris. We may just lose the money and have to,
This is not what the site plan review. The site plan review, I've already looked at it. It took me about an hour. I have a list of questions when I come to the meeting. These are actually on-site inspections that are required. Once it's just like a building permit. The building inspector has to go and inspect the building. It's basically the same thing. This line that's underground is required to be inspected, and these tests are required to be performed in order to accept that water line. And we know it's going to meet what the code requires. So
but your billing's coming separate from our building code inspector, which is Tom Horst.
Right.
So yours is coming separate. Our question is, how do we put that fee in there? Is it a separate fee, or is it part of the site plan review that the person pays up front?
Well, historically, like in the city, a general contractor will pull a permit. They have a list of subcontractors, and those subcontractors generally come in and pay for their own permit for the portion of the work that they're doing. So here, I'm assuming that the general contractor may be Mr. Butchko himself. The building looks like it's a pre-manufactured building. They come here and they stand it up and they screw it all together. It's like a big erector set. They put it together. So that's the building inspector's portion of that. Outside the walls, the building official doesn't do anything with the underground because that's a different license to do the underground inspection. The fire code does allow us to issue permits with fees attached, and it would be basically just covering the time to go out and do the inspections. So like I say, I don't know where you guys, if, it's 4 or 6 hours. If that's something you want to add in, then there's a final inspection at the end as well. So
Who's requiring the inspection?
the state requires the underground inspection. The state of Ohio, in order to install the underground fire main, you have to have a state license. And that has to also be inspected, the thrust blocking, the height, it has to hold 200 pounds of pressure for 2 hours, and then they have to flush everything out, and then the city also requires a bacteria test after the water line's been flushed out. So
How's the township get involved with that inspection?
it's on township property.
What is it?
Your line, though, I mean, it's a city of Amherst line.
Once it comes out of the right-of-way, it's a private fire main. Whether it's in city or township, those lines are required to be
Well,
inspected.
but you're providing, the city of Amherst is providing the service. We don't provide the water. We work with the city to get water lines in places, but we don't provide the water. That's provided by the city of Amherst, and that's billed by the city of Amherst. It's their line, and anything that goes on, you need their permission.
So,
Like that. Now, anything that goes up, that's our zoning. We give permits for the zoning, so permits have to come from us.
right, for the
But
building.
the water line is technically with the water department in Amherst, so I would say whatever needs to be done with that needs to go through the water department.
The water department will put the tap on their line. That's where they stop. They are offering the service to whoever the end user is. So they put the tap on. After that, it's up to that private individual to hire a contractor to cut the road, install the water line all the way back, and install the hydrant on that water line. The person that installs that water line is required to have a state license. And it's also required to be inspected, so that way when they put it in, they turn it on, we go to hook up the fire hydrant, we turn it on, it doesn't blow the water line, it doesn't blow up out of the ground. There's a whole reason for all that. Just because your water supplier is the city of Amherst, I don't believe the city of Amherst, being that it's on private property, and that property is in Amherst Township, that the city of Amherst is gonna, I mean, if that's the case, then the city of Amherst is gonna charge, they're gonna charge a tap-in fee for the water, and if you want the city of Amherst, I don't believe that they will require that person to get a permit through the city so we can go out and do the inspection.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, we're not going to resolve this here, but I know that Sam and Linda have been
Okay.
in contact with you, and they'll continue to be in contact.
Okay.
It's just that for this particular site plan, the timing may not allow it because, we just can't go in and say, well, guess what, you got this fee right now, and there hasn't been any formal resolution through the Board of Trustees for that fee.
Okay, I just want to make you aware that
Right.
I have to go. And then,
So all we're trying to do is try to find out the path of responsibility, who it is. and
Yeah, again,
that's open
David, we're
right
not
now.
going to resolve it at this
No.
meeting. So if you want to meet later, or if you want to schedule a work session, we can certainly do that. Or really, I'd even offer to you, if you want to run point on this, I'll turn it over to you in a heartbeat. You willing to take a, you got enough? Oh, okay. All right, Chris, was there something else?
yes. I believe I know in the packet, there's the, I think it's the Redwood Apartments.
Yes.
I believe at the last meeting, that engineer, the designer was here, and he was going to resubmit the drawing. I think there
With
was a
the
few.
auto turn?
That was done, and he had to widen a couple rows, but he said he was going to send that back with the hydrants highlighted in red, because it was really hard to see those. And I don't know if he had forwarded anything back to you guys or not. If not, I'll reach back out to him again and see if he
Yeah.
can.
I've received nothing. I can tell you that our zoning inspector, Sam, has not. I know on mine, I went through and highlighted each one because I think there were 14 of
And
them
they're hard to see.
throughout the development. Well, that's why I highlighted mine. So mine are in yellow,
Okay.
plans I had.
Okay, and the last thing, I guess from start to finish with the zoning commission, the issue of a zoning permit for a commercial building, just like this mini storage down on 58. There's a few items that need to be addressed, and I don't know how that follows up from start to finish. Does the zoning inspector go back out after the building is put up to see that all the requirements that were in place are completed to the satisfaction of what was required by the zoning commission?
His main thing, well, it can be, yes. If it's,
Okay.
in that case, I think the public mini storage is a conditional use, and they can even change annually, but the zoning inspector should be inspecting that. Their main thing is going to be the setbacks are there. If they've asked for any area, whether it's traffic circulation, whatever, that it's there, landscaping's there. They're certainly not going to be inspecting plumbing,
No,
water
no,
lines,
just
that sort of stuff.
Just whatever was agreed to at the zoning commission meeting is
Right.
actually what got, okay.
And it can be on an annual basis also when it's conditional use, because things can change. Let's say it's people that have outdoor music, and it might put down how loud or what hours they can operate. Well, if people aren't complying, it's complaint driven. We don't force people to come in every year like we used to. There's just too many of them. But the zoning inspector can go out at any time, but they should be following it up. Has this one? I can't tell you. I don't know. That'd be a question for Sam directly.
Okay,
Is there anything
All right.
else?
that's it.
All right, thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Okay, roads, parks, and cemetery, Superintendent Smarsh.
Obviously, mowing, parks, cemeteries, roadsides. Had a mini excavator come in with the brush hog, and we did a bunch of trimming in some of the overgrowth of the ditches. The same machine dipped out ditches on Stang Road that were well overdue. We moved a lot of water with very little fall. It worked out quite well. We did get our new mower, the new Skag. Griffith Paving did come in and do all the asphalt leveling and patching and leveling up the manhole covers on Taylor, and did the asphalt leveling on Tenney as well. We have just a little bit of in-house work to do on Broadway. That'll be completed before the end of the week. There is a meeting Friday morning. It's a pre-construction meeting for the chip and seal project.
Okay. That's at the engineer's office?
It's,
Oh, okay.
yep, online.
Virtual?
Yep, virtual, correct. We did some curb and gutter repair on Balsam. We have 60 feet that we will be pouring tomorrow. Concrete will be in for noon. And sandstone excavating is going to be in Hidden Valley next week to do the 2 storm sewer repairs and the 3 catch basins for the mini grant.
3 catch basins and
Hidden Valley.
what, you said something.
2 storm sewer repairs.
Yeah, the 2 catch basins specifically there, Chris. Glad you can type faster than I can write. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, anything else there, Kevin?
Other than the, I picked up, on Friday, picked up the bids after the county went over them, and the email I sent over was that new blacktop.
With all the bids, right, and I'm glad you did, because at that point then we'll move, that segues right into, I prepared a resolution that includes the bids that we received, in addition the engineer's estimate, and a map showing the area, and then the communication we received in May from the Ohio Public Works Commission. Pretty much Ohio Public Works Commission reminding you we can't officially award the bid until after the project labor agreement is signed, which will be signed electronically through WorkWise, with the estimate being that'll be about July 1st. But to make sure we don't miss this, is I have a resolution here authorizing the township to enter into the Ohio Public Works Commission project agreement and award the bid upon full execution of the OPWC agreement for the Overland Road resurfacing from Middle Ridge Road to North Ridge Road project. And I'm going to make this motion, and the wording is such that we're not really awarding the bid until the project labor agreement is completed. So, until they open that portal up where we can go online, and you'll work with Linda, it's that time when the bid award becomes effective. So we will meet the OPWC requirement.
I will second.
And so there's probably no need to read through this, Chris. I mean, it specifically says, upon full execution of the Ohio Public Works Commission project agreement for the Overland Road resurfacing from Middle Ridge to North Ridge Road, that the project shall be awarded to Erie Blacktop out of Sandusky, Ohio, and then indicating Kevin as the manager of the project.
David, did you second it?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Lynch?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
The number on that, Chris?
612.
612. You understand, Kevin, and Linda's not here this evening, but if you talk with her, you know, we should receive notice, and they'll send notice as they did last year. Our fiscal officer will get an email, I'll get an email, we each have to go in and sign this. At that point, once that's all signed and done, then it will become effective for the bid award. So it will be no bid award officially until that project labor agreement is signed and approved. Okay?
I've spoke with the estimator, and we've gone over that. She's been through it a million times.
Yeah, great. Okay, Linda's not here, so I'm going to move on to the complaints. One of the complaints, the street light, David's already addressed, and I'm just going to leave that on the agenda. You know, David will get the cost of whatnot for installation and ongoing rental costs for the street light. The other item that was open, there was a complaint initiated about barking dogs down in the valley on Deer Run. Our community policing officer, Deputy Hocking, did go down, tried to meet with the complainant, was unable to make contact, but did reach the contact with the individual that someone's complaining about with an incessantly barking dog. His response is here that in speaking with the dog's owner, he gives the address. They were advised of the complaint. The owner stated that they do have a bark collar for the dog, and that they'll be more conscious of putting that bark collar on the dog. Obviously, it appears, reading through this, maybe making some assumptions here, but it seems like there's some other negative or disagreeable interaction between these neighbors. So I'm going to close that one. That's you know, the sheriff is the enforcement arm. They've gone down, they've made the contact, and so we'll just see, you know, what the results are on this particular issue. There is, and I had this out of order, this should have been under stormwater in the phase 2. This is a correspondence going to Kevin and Linda. This is for the Broadway Taylor street drainage issue. Kevin reported on this at the previous meeting. Based on some communication, I believe, Kevin, you may now already have a resident now being more agreeable to an easement across their property that's necessary that they might not have been in the past, or there may have been a misunderstanding. So Kevin and Linda are going to work with Lorraine County Stormwater District to look at funding availability, whether it's the community grant or the mini grant, though I would really prefer the community grant, knowing that they did have leftover funds for the 2023 program year, that they were the County Board of Commissioners that also serve as a stormwater district was just looking at carrying those over to be available in 2024. But since this is a current drainage issue that we have, that we thought we would have applied for before, I'm hoping we can try and go for the full amount, which is going to be roughly $20,000 based on your estimate. And David, you've got the estimate in here. It's an older estimate from 2022, so that's why I've increased it to assume that's going to be closer to $20,000 for that project. This is a project that would be a combination, though it's over, you have about 360 feet of 15-inch pipe, and then another 600 feet of open ditch that would have to be cleared. And so it would drain that area out towards 58, which would be the outfall. Okay, and you would have seen in a previous application that Kevin and Linda turned in, if you look at your old documents, you'll see all the photos for where they walked through and took photos of the water being retained there. So again, Kevin, I appreciate, I know that's a lot more work, but if you and Linda can keep pushing on that, if we can get it this year, it'd be nice. I'm sure those residents would appreciate it. It'll definitely help our roads. Okay, beyond that, David, as far as solid waste, you have anything to report on there?
No, just I have some follow-up to do on those mobile home parks.
Right.
I'm not too optimistic about that, but there is follow-up that needs to be
Okay.
done, and also continue to investigate alternatives and to the yard waste.
Good.
For the yard waste, those items right now.
Right. And hopefully, too, I know when you and I have both had communications with the attorney for our solid waste and recycling hauling contract, you know, she talks about, well, those manufactured homes are, you know, a separate, they can contract separate, they can, but she also refers, so can homeowners association. If you recall, I brought it up during the reviews of the Sandstone, Hampshire, and Redwood, as far as are they going to use the township's agreement or get their own, and they've all agreed to use the township, which actually helps us in terms of bidding, because that increases the number that you're going out with, and as we increase that volume, it tends to get more interest and better pricing. So, you know, I know this is additional work, but if they're willing to come in and it's a benefit that we both can do, both those in the manufactured home and the township at large, David, that'd be great. But it's their decision. And I'm sure they'll want to see what our current costs are. The NOPEC we discussed during the budget hearing, and Kevin's aware of what we hope to get funds, though nothing's been agreed to yet. So is there anything else on old business?
I have nothing under
All
old
right.
business.
Under new business, one item that I'm hoping for action tonight, you'll see in July, there's one showing for site plan reviews and variance hearing cost recovery for the architect and fire inspector services. And, you know, this covers some of what you brought up, Chris. I put that as a placeholder, knowing it's being worked on, but it's not ready yet to come before this board. I'm sure there'll be all sorts of questions asked when that happens. But I do have in here, this is a resolution to approve the Amherst Consolidated Properties LLC Redwood Apartments Subdivision Townhome Construction for Sandstone Development and the findings of the Zoning Commission pursuant to Amherst Township Zoning Resolution Article 1200 Plan Development District. Now, we held this up. This was actually presented to the Zoning Commission and action was taken back in January, but there were a couple of things. Chris has mentioned the fire hydrants. There was the auto turn that needed to be run since the roads now were, I believe they were the 22-foot with the 4-foot sidewalk to make sure that the vehicles could meet the turn radii. If not, they'd have to make an adjustment to the plan. There were things, David, you talked about the barriers at the one Stubb Street that goes into facing Jim Conrady's pond to have something there. We talked about the lighting plans. We talked about the other Stubb Streets putting in turnarounds so that since they are definitely going to use whoever the township contracts with, which we know will be the automatic hydraulic lift arms, that if the vehicles can come in front ways instead of, you know, trying to back in to catch them. And they had agreed that they would add turnarounds to all the Stubb Streets except one. And I think because they would lose units no matter what they did. So there is one of, I think there were 4 or 6 Stubb Streets that they will either have to back in or come up with another alternative, whether that's a padding or they can put them across the street, whatever is decided. But I didn't see to hold that up. We knew there were variances they had to accommodate or changes so they wouldn't need the variance. That dealt with wetlands and the size of the sign. The sign they've agreed they're going to make smaller. The wetland variances did go through the county, I believe it was last month. The county approved them for what their setbacks are. The township, after the developer was able to make adjustments, there was only one area that they were impacting, and that would have affected a wetlands that was close to Oberlin Road. And they could accommodate it and avoid the impingement or infringement, but then they'd have to decrease the size of the detention basin. And made it clear, I'd much rather see that variance go through versus having to have the reduced water detention, both in capacity and release rate. And so that's the direction it's going. But with that in place, I put together a resolution that we can comply with the township's zoning resolution that after the zoning commission approves a final development plan, the township board of trustees needs to make a decision. But Chris, I did put in all sorts of conditions here. And so this may require some reading, but specifically I put down in section 1, the Board of Trustees pursuant to Amherst Township Zoning Resolution Article 1200 Plan Development District finds and determines that it is in the best interest of the township to approve the Amherst Consolidated Properties Redwood Apartments subdivision final development plan for construction of 205 townhome rental units in the sandstone development and the findings of the zoning commission. The approved final development plan shall remain valid for a period of 12 months following the completion of the construction of the Sandstone Parkway by Lorraine County. And here, Lorraine County is going to construct that road. Obviously, we put in a 12-month restriction in our zoning resolution, but they can't even begin until the road's there, and so they're going to be dependent on the county. So that gives them 12 months to start after the county constructs the road. Section 2, all construction shall be consistent with the settlement agreement by and between the Amherst Township Board of Trustees, Amherst Consolidated Properties, LLC, Consolidated Investors Group, LLC, and Consolidated Investors Group 2, LLC for the Sandstone Plan Development District, and the preliminary development plan settling Lorraine County Common Pleas Court Case number 20 CV 200199 pursuant to Revised Code 505.07. Section 3, and there's a reason I'm reading all this, Chris, so that everyone understands the conditions here. All construction shall be consistent with the commitments made during a January 3rd, 2023 Zoning Commission Final Development Plan meeting, applicable building codes as determined by the Amherst Township Zoning Inspector, Fire Prevention Officer, and Architect, and the attachment titled The Redwood Apartments in Sandstone Site Plan Review Q&A, January 3rd, 2023. Now let me stop there. Let's see, I don't have a second yet, so I better read through this and get a second, and I'll explain some of that. The appropriate barrier, and this, David, was one of your requests. Section 4, an appropriate barrier shall be provided to prevent motor vehicles inadvertently driving into a retention basin on the northeast portion of the Redwood development. Section 5, this Redwood subdivision final development plan for construction of 205 residential rental units shall become, for the proposed development, a binding commitment of the specific elements approved for development. The approved development plan may be transferred to another person, corporation, or group of individuals or corporations prior to the issuance of a building permit. A request for such a transfer or change of ownership shall be presented to the zoning inspector and granted only if the new ownership entity satisfies the administrative, financial, legal, and all other performance guarantees approved with the original development plan. All construction and development under any building permit shall be in accordance with the approved plan. Any departure from such plan shall be a cause for revocation of the zoning certificate. Any changes in an approved plan shall be resubmitted for approval in accordance with the Amherst Township Zoning Resolution Article 1200 Plan Development. So in other words, they'd have to go through the process again if there's going to be a change. The rest is boilerplate. So before we go into further discussion, I'll make that motion, look for a second.
I will decline a second.
You're declining a second?
And
Okay.
the reason being, Neil, is I would like the full board to have a say on this. I would like Denny to be here when we vote on this. I think
Okay.
this is something major, and I think that the board should be all involved. I don't think.
That's fine.
I would appreciate that.
I have no objection. All I got to do is change dates and print more paper.
All
so
right, all right. And I
I'll
know
do
you
that
put a
for
lot
you.
of work into it, Neil, and I know at the last second you got that together.
Well, let's,
But I think we've got some time on this.
We do.
Sandstone isn't even built yet, and I don't think much is going to be done these next 2 weeks because this is a high vacation time of year, and I'm sure by the 11th, I see no reason why Denny wouldn't be here.
okay.
But I decline the second and wait till we have a full board.
Well, do me a favor and read through this, and if there's anything that's missing or additional needs to be included, David, I'd
Okay.
appreciate having that within the next 7 days, so I have time to make the adjustments to get this done. I'm just trying to make sure we include as much here so it's documented, not forgotten. I know how things happen, and it helps if it's in writing. I know once this is completed, the developer will end up asking for a copy as they have on the others, and then they've got it too, so we know they
Well.
received it in writing.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
When we have a full board.
that's fine. But just, again, within the next 7 days, review through the detail. If there's anything missing you think needs to be done, get it to me before next Tuesday.
Or the 11th? You want the 11th, or you want not the 4th?
No, I want it the next Tuesday by the 4th, because I need time. You give me anything, I've got to go through.
Okay. All right, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I
I
try to
thought you-
avoid doing things at the last
I know.
minute.
Second Tuesday.
Okay. All right, Chris, we're just going to hold that one then
Mhm.
until the next meeting. Okay, I mentioned there's a holding placeholder here for site plans. Our next regular meeting will be at 7 o'clock on Tuesday, July 11th. Any need for a work session, Kevin? And just so everyone's aware, a train did just go through, and I'm sure you heard no horn. I took off the quiet zone, which used to be an agenda item, but though it was to be effective May 30th, we were still getting quite a bit. You'll still occasionally get them. There was a full signal horn sounding already today, but you'll notice it's way down. So it may just take time. There'll never be 100% no horns. Anytime there's animals, vehicles, people on the tracks, those horns are going to sound. But there's been very few from this past weekend on, so it's decreased significantly. Last chance, anything else to be brought before the board? If not, I do have a need for a short, quick executive session, and I'll only need Chris, you, David, myself. Kevin, you'll be able to go. Okay? So if that's the case, I'm going to make a motion to enter into an executive session per 121.22G. Get the right one here. G3, this in regards to pending litigation. There will actually be 2 items here on this litigation. The one concerning a zoning issue. And the other, yes, and the other one, I'm going to say that's a zoning issue too. That'll be my motion.
Second,
Lynch,
Yes.
Euring,
yes.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we return to the regular meeting from executive session at 8:47 PM.
Second,
Lynch,
Yes.
Euring.
yes.
Okay, if there's no other business, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved,
Second?
Euring,
yes.
Lynch.
Yes.